Hello and welcome to my channel. So today we are going to draw and paint a budgie, and I've got the little picture up in that top left hand side of my chat. And yeah, so we're going to draw and paint that little bird, and I'm going to be using my core watercolours today. I've got a mechanical pencil here that I don't know how to use. I've got to figure out how to get the lead down. Oh, there we go. I just pressed that button. There we go. I bought this the other day. It's a really pretty mechanical pencil, but I didn't know that I had to push that to make the lead come down. So there you go. You live and learn. So I am going to start by getting a rough size of him. They've got quite round heads, little budgies. He's about, see how I'm measuring the length of his body by my fingers, using my fingers. So I'm just going to quickly erase that little line. I had him down a fraction too low to begin with. I'm going to start in this top left corner and work my way down to the bottom right. So start with a rounded head, because budgies are quite round little birds. Well, their heads are anyway. So literally that's half a circle for his face. And his body, because he's got his back to us. So I start by taking, now okay, so his head is 1, 2 times his body. So head, 1, 2, and I mark it there so I know where I need to take his body to, like that. It's a nice easy way of measuring. I always measure everything against the head. I start drawing with the head and I measure everything from there. Okay, and then his tail is 1, almost 2 times his head. So his head, so I go down here where his body ends and I go 1, 2, and then I mark where the tail ends, and I just draw a basic line to get to there, like that. And it doesn't have to, I'll add the detail in after I've got the basic body shape in. So now I can draw the beak and the eye. So his little beak is about halfway down his face. I'm just going to start by drawing the little blue top on his nose, like that. And his little beak, like that. His beak curves around his face, like that. So that's a nice simple little beak. His eye is behind the top of his blue nose. So I just go about a centimetre back, maybe a little bit more, and I draw his eye in. His eye is about the same size as the top of his nose. That blue bit of his nose, his eye is about the same size. So that's how I get that measurement. And he's got very big pupil. So I draw his very big pupil in. And then I can start with the detail. So he's got a blue colour marking there. He's got another blue blob there. Little blobs there. Right. I draw his feathers. You can see the tops of his feathers. His wings, because he's got his back to us. I'm just going to draw the shape of his wing on. I'll start by just drawing the shape of his wing coming down and around, like that. And then I can add the feathers in after. I think I've got him maybe a little bit round, but that's okay. We can adjust and readjust. Then this wing on this side comes down here and comes down around there. You can see he's got like different shaped feathers all around. So, and then that one comes down and almost meets down there. And his tail feathers, he's got one, I can see. So you just look for the little details that comes down there. One big feather. And then he's got shorter feathers that come down like that. I can't see them. I can see the edge of one on that side. So I just pop that in. I'm going to actually I can't see this line on the photograph. So I'm going to take that line off, that because his body sort of goes fluffy there and then disappears back. You can see the back of his little leg here, about here. So see where these feathers change is where his leg starts. And I can just see that there. So I draw that in. And I'm not going to use that camera. I'm going to paint in a branch because I don't want to use a camera lens. So I'm just going to literally draw a stick shape instead of having the camera. Just like that. So I'm changing that. I got this reference off Pexels. Or Pexels or Pixabay. One of those two. And they're both royalty free. You can use the photos for art references. It's quite fine. Yeah, so I got this reference. Actually, I think I got this reference off Unsplash. So, which is a fantastic reference site. I'm going to just roughly sketch in. He's got very soft looking feathers. He's got little stripes. You can't really see the stripes on this one. They're just a darker yellow. So I'm not going to worry too much. Got to take his head back a little bit. Okay. So I'm now going to draw just the basic shape of his feathers. So he's got yellows, greens. I'm going to use my core watercolours today. They're very vibrant and I thought they'd be fun for this little bird. I use them a lot for people portraits. I haven't used them much for animals, so I thought it would be an interesting picture to try and draw a budgie or just any animals in general. I'm just going to keep coming around here with the cores because cores are very vibrant. They are a super vibrant colour. Going to come back around there. Then I'm going to go to these little feathers that are all overlapped. I've got to come down here a bit. They're all overlapped and they come to a big triangular-y shaped one there. And then, whoops a daisy, hit my camera, sorry guys. And then they're slightly larger going back onto his back there. And then you can just see one feather there. And three of those. And I can adjust this outside line again as I need to. Come down one more. And then one more bigger one under that. It comes right down there like that. Okay. So that's basically a wing. I'm just going to take this little line. I'm going to adjust this line again. Like that. Because he's got quite a fluffy little tum under there. There we go. And he's got the most beautiful shades of green. So now I'm going to add these other feathers onto here. So I'm going to mimic sort of what I've done the other side. There's these smaller feathers that come down like that. And then it slightly changes direction. The larger feathers go across. They don't have to be exactly right. Then he's got his longer feathers. Whoops, longer feathers there. And I can only see... Actually, I've got them going the wrong way. I can only see the ends of these longer feathers on that side. There we go. So that's that pretty much drawn in. I'm not going to do any more detail than that, I don't think. I'm going to start with my watercolours. I'm going to start on his little eye. I've got to leave a little highlight right there. So I'm just going to leave that the white of the paper. So I've already pre-wet my watercolours. I am going to grab my watercolour brush. And I'm going to be using my... Where is it? Where's my brush? Oh no. Oh no, hang on. I'm going to be using... Oh, it doesn't have a brand on it. It's just a little watercolour brush. And I'm going to get my little bit of cloth that I use this bit of cloth to absorb any of the excess moisture that I don't want. And I'm going to start with the eye. And I'm going to go straight in with a tight... Oh, got to get my palette up here, don't I? Get my palette up there. And I'm going to start with a little touch of grey into the pupil. Like that. I'm just going to drop that in, being careful not to touch that little white dot that I left. And I'm just going to leave that like that. Now, his beak is like a yellow ochre. I'm actually going to use... Yep, I'm going to use a touch of yellow ochre. Oops, I've got to clean my brush a bit better than that. Touch of yellow ochre. There we go. And I'm going to pop that onto his beak. Like that. So this is core watercolours. So pop that onto his beak. Let that dry. And start working my way around. So next, I can go onto his head and start with this beautiful vibrant yellow. So I'm going to grab, you can see how vibrant these core watercolours are. It looks a bit green on camera, but it is a beautiful vibrant yellow. So I'm just going to go literally fill in his whole head. Fill in his head. Come down and around, leaving the iris of his eye and the white of his eye. And I will cut around these other spots that are going to be darker. It's a lovely bright colour. So come down and around. I won't worry, you can see I've taken that line out a fraction, but I'm not going to take his head out that far. I think I'm quite happy with it being there. And his head, the crown of his head, or the top, the whole of his head actually, is quite bright yellow. So I'm going to continue on in that, like that, and it sort of goes down around his chest a little bit. Right, so that's basically his little head filled in. So what I'm going to do now is go to work on his back. So it's he's a lime green. So I'm actually going to have to mix my own green because I don't really have a green in my core colours. So I'm just going to go yellow, and I think I might go a cerulean blue. Oh geez, a cerulean blue and yellow. So I'm just going to put that into there, into the yellow I've got on my palette already. I'm going to put a little bit of cerulean, and I'm going to go back in, add a little touch more yellow, just to green up that colour. And I am going to just do a very diluted wash of that green down to the underside of his little belly, under here, like that, around the top of his wing. There's just a subtle sort of a difference. And then come down and around here. And you can hear the music in the background is Epidemic Sound. It's also a royalty-free music site that you are allowed to use on YouTube. So if anyone needs any music, Epidemic Sound, I recommend. There's a small fee per year. Now that's actually looking quite glary. It's a very vibrant colour, so it's looking quite glary on the camera. I apologise for that. And I'm going to come down here and take that down to his tail. Not onto his tail, but to his tail. So I'm going to strengthen that green. I'm going to go back to my cerulean, add a little bit more of that into the yellow, just a touch more. Because I don't want a dark green, I want quite a light green. I've got to go a little bit more even. There we go. To strengthen up that green colour. And I'm going to take that next, while it's still damp, while the paper's still damp, I'm just going to add little strokes to suggest the feathers, the darker feathers. And then I'm going to take that same green down onto his back. I might actually swap my music to less verbal. I might go to classical or something music, because voice is distracting. So I'm going to go classical music, which is also Epidemic Sound. It's awesome. And I'm just going to hit that. So then we just have classical, lovely classical music in the background. So I do like working with music. It's just very relaxing. So I'm going to take that green back down his back. And it doesn't matter if it's exactly the same green, because it is just a painting. It's not not a photograph. It can be a little bit different. You can interpret how you like, and everyone sees colours slightly different anyway, which is fascinating. And I do struggle with greens and blues. So I've got that there. I'm going to add it around the bottom, that same green, around the bottom of these feathers that I've drawn in. Because you can see, he's actually got a little greeny tinge around the bottoms of them. So I'll take that down, get a bit more moisture onto my brush, and I can strengthen these up. This is only the first layer, so I can strengthen these up later by adding stronger greens, stronger blues. But for the second, I am just adding them on like that, taking that tone down the darker parts. And I'll do the same on this side, like that. Just adding at the bottom to the bottom of the feathers and around the edges, not all over. Whoops, got a bit too much water there, so I just take the moisture off my brush and dip the end of my brush in and reabsorb that up there, like that. Go around the inside here, like that, and around that bottom edge. So that's pretty much the tail, the back done. I'm down to the tail. I'm going to add some more of that yellow. I'm going to go into my yellow, and I've got to add a little bit of yellow here at this top of this tail. Just there, like that. And I might add a little bit, you can't see it on the other side, but I might add it just for symmetry, just because I can, like that. And now I've got a beautiful tealy blue, so I'm going to use cobalt teal. I've actually got cobalt teal on my palette, which is a really gorgeous colour. I'm going to add that teal, which is a tealy blue, to the bottom of his tail. It's a greeny blue actually. I'm going to add that to his tail, and I can go over the top of that with, I might go over the top of that with a little touch of cerulean, because why not? Take that all the way to the bottom, like that. And then I'm going to go back up onto his wings and add a little bit of that into these bottom few feathers, like that. Alright, having a quick look. And I'm going to put that on his nose as well, that little teal blue. I'm going to put that on his nose, because that is actually a lovely colour for there. I'm going to try and take that glare away. There we go. Move my light a little bit so it's not so glary. No, that's still glary. How do I stop the glare? Hang on. Take that light back there. Nope. There we go. There we go. That's better. That takes that glare off. Awesome. So now I'm going to go back onto the yellow on his head, and I'm just going to strengthen that. It looks very greeny on the camera. I'm going to turn this other light on and see if that helps with the... Well, that just puts a shadow on it, but that's all right. We can live with that little bit of a shadow on there. No, we can't. We're going to turn the light off again. There we go. Okay, it's all good. Hello, Susan. How are you? It's lovely to have you. Yeah, so I'm playing with my core watercolours today, and that does look very green. I've got to try and get the light back onto him without the glare. See, I get too much glare. If I put the light directly on him, it's way too glary. So I've got to find that balance to get the light there. Oh, goodness. Oh, and I turned my light off. That was silly. There we go. Maybe I'll try a little bit. Oops. Nope. There we go. I'll leave my light over there. Well, welcome. Yeah, so I'm using my core watercolours, and I am attempting to get similar tones to the bird in the photograph, which I got off Unsplash. I think I got off Unsplash or Pixabay. I'm going to actually mix a different blue. I'm going to go into my cobalt blue. Actually, Yeah, I'm going to go into my, actually, I'm going to go into my ultramarine to mix another green. Ultramarine and Hancy yellow to make a stronger green. Slightly stronger green. And thank you. Hello. He's looking great so far. Budgies wild in Australia. They are. They're everywhere. Up north, we have a lot of birds. A lot of beautiful birds. They're one of my favourite subjects. But yes, we do have budgies and finches wild here. And all kinds of parrots. You name it, we've got them. So we're very lucky. So I'm just going to bring this darker green in the shape of the feathers. I'm just using the brush, the side of the brush, to drag the feather shapes up. And I'm going to build that up to even darker over the top. You can see that they're quite almost a dark blue. Almost a dark blue. So a grey, to a blue-grey. When I've built up the layers to the final sort of colours. So I'm on layer 2 now. And I always work light to dark. I start with my lightest colours and then build them up. Slowly getting darker and darker each time. Leaving little gaps of the lighter colours seen through towards the end. Most of our birds in the US are sort of bland, lucky you. We are very lucky. We are very lucky. But you guys have, you know, a different, just a completely different variety. You've got, what are they, cuckoos, and I love your cardinals, and they're gorgeous. And I especially, my favourite of the overseas birds is the little chickadees. They're so cute. They remind me of our wrens, our little blue wrens. And our little blue wrens, they are sort of bright, bright, bright blue. But yeah, I love your chickadees. So I'm going to go straight in to his face with ultramarine onto this part that is, I don't even know what you call those. They're little cheap decorations, little displays. I'm sure they're used for to look attractive to the little girlfriends. And I don't know whether you know, but to tell the difference between a boy budgie and a girl budgie is this top of their nose. It's on a boy budgie, it's dark, and on a girl budgie, it's pale. So now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to mix a grey, but using blue. So I'm going to keep my ultramarine, and I very rarely use these core watercolours for wildlife. I use them for people usually. So I'm not sure how these mixes are going to go. But I'm going to use transparent brown oxide and blue and see if I can make my own grey. Oh, and that worked. Awesome. Because usually in my other watercolours, it's burnt umber and blue. Any blue makes a different tone of grey. So I'm mixing my grey because I want to keep the blue tones because that'll keep it sort of, it'll work in with the greens better. So I'm making a blue-grey using ultramarine and transparent brown oxide in my core watercolours. And I'm going to very diluted take that onto these wings and start to add carefully the not covering all the green, just literally doing little lines of that dark. I had a talking parakeet once. People came to see him, not me. Yeah, they're fantastic. They're so clever. Parakeets are so clever. We've got, actually, around here, there are lots of parakeets and parrots and cockatoos wild. We get hundreds of cockatoos. And one of our friends was working out in their garden, and obviously someone had hand-reared one, and it was a talking one, and it literally sat on the fence chatting to, it escaped from wherever it was kept, and it had made friends with the wild flock, so it was part of a new flock, so it was quite happy and healthy. But yeah, it was talking to them, sitting on the fence having a chat, which was hilarious because cockatoos can pretty much, they're very smart. It was so funny. And then, and what they do is the other parrots come in because they've got giant cages out the back or whatever. The wild ones come in and literally chew them out and get open, break their cages, and escape them. They're so cool. But yeah, we get thousands at certain times a year, seasonally. So I'm gonna continue on. So this blue grey again, which was cobalt. no, sorry, ultramarine blue and transparent brown oxide. I love these core watercolors. So are you a watercolorist, Susan? What are you a watercolorist or I love drawing, just drawing in general. I'm just going to round these up a fraction, these larger feathers. I should try and mirror them on the other side while I'm at it, just to keep the symmetry. Alright. He does look much greener on the paper, but I've had to adjust my lighting because my lighting was glary, because the yellows are very vibrant on these in the cores. I usually use Sennelier or Schminky, but I just thought I wanted to play with vibrant colours today. I'll let my Jerry just run the apartment unless it was night. Oh, that's awesome. It's awesome when you can have them free. It's wonderful. All right. I've got a little bit too much sort of symmetry there. I can adjust and readjust. I'll still do more work around that. I've got to add these little darker flecks around the back of the nape of his neck, still letting the underlying colour being visible. And at the very end, I can add feather texture. I'm trying to watercolour for about 5 years. I need to learn. Lots to learn. Oh, you never stop learning. I've been doing watercolours now for, gosh, when did I start doing watercolours? I was like 25 and I'm 55. So 30 years. The hardest part is to slow down, paint in layers. Yes, exactly. I think the layering was the hardest part to learn. That was and being patient, letting things dry, because I'm very impatient. So you're not alone. So same struggle. Now inside his eye is extremely yellow. So I'm going to go back in with my Hancy yellow. I really do need to get more in the core range. I love the core watercolors. They're super duper duper vibrant. I'm actually going to make that a little bit yellow, I think, a little bit orange. I don't own an orange, so I'm going to go yellow. And what reds have I got? I've got Viridian, I've got crimson. I'm going to use my crimson. I'm going to go my yellow and a touch of crimson. Probably should use magenta, but that's okay. That's definitely not going to make an orange. Oh no, there we go. No, it's a poopy orange. I don't want a poopy orange. I want a bright orange. So I'm going to go back into my other colours, and it's sort of practice. And I'm going to go to my magenta and then go to my Hancy yellow. That's a better orange. That's definitely a better orange. Bit more. I went core in my Amazon cart now. Oh, it is a beautiful. It's gorgeous. I actually need a test palette, test paper. I'm going to grab another old picture that I did. There's a little ink drawing I did the other day. I'm just going to use the very bottom left of that to test that. There we go. I'm going to add a bit more yellow. Still a little bit dark. Core's amazing. It does beautiful skin tones in people. I just started to play with people, drawing people and painting people. And yeah, it did beautiful skin tones. So I'm just going to start to now add that little orange. I've still got a little bit too much on my brush. That orange around in the shadow areas. And it will dry a couple of tones lighter. So what's your favourite? Have you got a favourite brand at the moment, or are you still trying all different ones? I probably use my Senneliers and Schminkies the most. But I'm a bit of a collector. Over the 30 years I've collected quite a lot, and it lasts forever. So you never run out. I was going to add these darker tones. Yeah, I've got quite a few different brands of watercolour, but I've definitely got my favourites. Aren't you the Jen that used to paint every morning? Your voice is very familiar. I did. Then over COVID, I drew and painted every morning. And then when COVID ended, I got a job, went back to work. and then went full time and just didn't have the time. So, but now, luckily, my boss is brilliant and has given me the freedom to have mornings off, so I can go back to my art and stream again because I missed it. So they're very supportive at my workplace, and I've got yeah, more time to art now. So I'm a very happy camper. But it's been a long time. Like I've just started up again after 2 years. I mean, I've been making art, but I'd stopped streaming it pretty much for a couple of years while I went back to work. But yeah, I just made shorts and things. I have Cotman and Mai Lang. I actually love the Mai Lang. Oh, nice! I haven't heard of Mai Lang. That's cool. I love learning about new brands. Um, Very good. And the Cotmans are good. Have to get your name back out there. Yeah, slow and steady, slow and steady. I'll just putter along, and it'll happen. Just keep it's consistency. It's just doing it and keeping doing it. That's all. And I will now. I'm going to try and stream quite a few times a week, and still do my shorts and stuff. Might make short videos. Now you can see that dark has dried quite pale. So I'm actually going to go back in, and I'm going to add a bit of blue to my grey to darken it up a bit. And I'm going to go back in to that little pupil, pardon me, and just leave that little highlight. The whiter the paper, you'll never get a brighter white than the whiter the paper. So I'm looking at the reference, and he's quite different to the reference, but it doesn't matter. And I'm also going to add that grey, it's a blue grey, to the bottoms and of these wing feathers. They're called Pretty Excellent. They're called Pretty Excellent. They don't give any light fast info except etc. but for art books. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean it's fine. I've got, what are they? I've got what are they called? I've got them up here. Uh, these are beautiful watercolors, but there's no light fast information. I think they're called, what are they called? Um, what are they called? Kuretake Gunzai, Kuretake. And these are lovely, vibrant watercolors. But I don't know any of the light fastness on them, and I really don't care because they're lovely and fun to use. So you've just got to enjoy. You just got to enjoy. You don't use masking fluid. I'm terrible with masking fluid, so no. I make a mess. So I try to leave the white of the paper. I try to just manually leave it, but that's just something that's come with practice. And if I miss it, I can just use a little bit of gouache or a little bit of acrylic paint to just touch any bits that, like if I lose something that I absolutely shouldn't have lost on the white parts, I can go back in with my gouache, because I have some gouache. I have a gouache palette that I love. That saves me occasionally when I mess up and put too much colour. But and I use Sennelier gouache. It's a really pretty soft. It's soft. It's not. It doesn't look. It's not too vibrant. It's more delicate. Like you could use it for florals and things. It's really lovely. It's quite expensive, but again, it lasts forever. It lasts forever. I've had my tubes of Sennelier gouache for maybe 5 years, and I've still got the same tubes. I haven't bought new tubes. So, well, you pay a little bit more, but you do get longevity out of them. You're not replacing them constantly. Okay, so I'm just going to take that line down the center of that feather. I've got to get the shadow under that feather, just there. And I can remove the Prismacolor white pencil. Yes, yes, absolutely. I am shocking at pencils. I mean, I can draw with a grey lead, but I can't do coloured pencils. I am awful. I tried, and I've tried, and I cannot get my head around it. I was going to continue on. I'm going to add some more feather texture onto the back of his head here. I love pencil work, but I can't do it. I've got a friend who's an amazing pencil artist, and it blows my mind. I can't do the layering. Sennelier gouache, yes, it's beautiful gouache. It is gorgeous. I recommend it. But I haven't used any others. I've used an Australian gouache. I can't remember what it's called now, but I didn't think a whole lot of it. So the Sennelier is a French one, and it is beautiful. I'm now going to go back to my turquoise, and I'm going to add a bit more turquoise. I'm going to add a bit of yellow to the turquoise. I'm trying to make a stronger green just for up here. I don't like that, so I'm just going to lift that off with my bit of cloth that I've got in my hand. How am I going to make that green? I'm going to go a little bit of Viridian maybe. I'll try a little bit of Viridian. Little touch of Viridian. And see how that goes. It's not the right colour. I know I have it in another palette. Okay, I'm going to go. You can see the core is a little bit more opaque. It's a slight little bit more opaque. He's looking fab. Thank you. Thank you. Pencils are another slow and steady art. Yes. Oh my goodness. It's a whole other dimension of art, pencil drawing. I love ink. I love ink. I love watercolour. I love watching pencil artists. I find it really mesmerising to watch pencil artists. But I've tried it. It's not for me. But I love watching it. And I really appreciate people who can do it. Alright. I'm going to wait till that dries a little bit. I'm going to go on to the branch. So it's a camera in the reference picture up there on the top left. But I'm going to turn it into a branch. So I'm just going to wet the paper. Clean my brush. There's a little tint of colour on the brush. Doesn't matter. And I'm going to literally drop in. And core watercolours act differently to other watercolours. They do definitely react differently. So if you watch how this watercolour, once I drop it on into that wet paint, oops, I need a bit more on my brush. Drop that on there. And this is a new paper I'm using too. Oh, that's not spreading at all, is it? That could be this paper though, because it's a new brand of paper that I'm using Fabriano, and I haven't used Fabriano. Usually, watercolour flows a lot more freely than this is flowing today. But that's okay. It's not a problem. So I'm just making this up really. This this stick. I haven't got a reference, so I'm just gonna, while the paper's still wet, I'm gonna just keep adding sort of texture. I used yellow ochre first. Now I'm going in with a bit of brown oxide. Just a touch of brown oxide. Let it flow around. I'll add a bit of blue under him for his shadow. Just add a little bit of texture, like that. It's sort of starting to flow. There we go. Because I haven't used the cores in quite a while. Because I haven't done a person in quite a while. So now, what am I going to use? I'm going to add a dark grey. Actually, I've got indigo. I love indigo. I'm going to use indigo. And I'm going to sort of pop that on top. Oops. Directly under. I'm going to wet my brush, because that is super strong colour. Wet my brush. And just take that into the darkest areas underneath him. Add a little bit there onto the branch. Just to add a shadow, because where he's sitting is shadowed. Just going to wet my brush, dab that in. And that's all still wet, so it'll still travel a little bit. And it doesn't matter, the orangey colour, the orangey brown will create like a greeny tone, but I don't mind, because wood has green in it. Okay. I'm going to leave that alone now. And I am going to, what am I going to do now? I'm looking at my big picture. I'm going to go back to my yellow. I've got to clean my yellow. I've actually got a couple of different colours on my yellow now. Okay, going back to my yellow. And I'm going to touch just around, I need a little bit less on my brush. And I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow anywhere I can see that I've got little bits of white paper. I'm going to add the yellow just around his wings, like that. I've sort of lost the yellow a little bit. I mean, I could go over that with gouache if I wanted to. I won't worry about it because it's just a fun sketch, a fun, fast sketch. Just to practice and using colours, the paints that I haven't used for a while. I could even, you know what I could even do? I could even go over him a little bit with ink. Just a little. Because I do love ink. I'm going to put a bit of yellow down here. Try and blend that out a bit more. So I can go back, because it re-wets really well. So I'm just going to blend that down there. Because that had a bit of a hard line happening, which I didn't want. So now I'm going to get a super duper 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 fine brush. My super duper fine brush, which is just a cheap brush. It's not a spectacular one. And I'm going to go back into my blue that I've got sitting on my palette over here. And I'm going to try and create little feathered effect. You can't really see it on there. But take that around the edges. Whoops, a little bit damp there. I need to be a bit careful. Not the end of the world though. And it's just a suggestion. It doesn't have to look like the photograph. It just suggests, because no one's ever going to be looking at the reference side by side. They'll just be seeing the finished piece. So it doesn't matter. And these little brushes, I can afford only one professional paints. What would you recommend? Okay, tubes or pans, doesn't matter. I love pans. I work with pans a lot. I find they're really economical. They're easier to store and keep. So pans are great. I would go Schminky. If you can afford Schminky, I would go Schminky. I like Daniel Smith, but I'm not. He's got a lot of granulating paints, and I'm not a fan of granulating. So I do use a couple of his colours, but I've only got a couple. I use a couple of, I can't remember what it is. It's got a taupey colour that I love, and he's the only one that makes it. But I highly recommend, I love Schminky. At one decent palette that's got like, you can buy the 12 pans or 24 pans. One of those, I would recommend. I love Schminky. I'll grab my palette. Actually, I'll grab my Schminky palette and I'll show you. Oh. And I've gathered these over. That's Senelia's. Where's my Schminkies? Where did I put my Schminkies? Oh, they're over there. Okay, so this is my Schminky palette. And it's very old, so it's very messy. But so this is my Schminky palette, and I've just over the years I've gathered a ton of colours just because it's fun. You can see I've made a complete mess of all my yellows are all green now, but you can go in and I've got my Jack Russell has got fur on top because he sits on my lap when I paint sometimes. But I would say Schminky, that's a nearly 15-year-old palette. But I've gathered colours over the years. I highly recommend, if you can only afford a couple of colours, a burnt umber, cobalt blue, because you can make a beautiful grey. I use my transparent sienna. I do paint a lot of animals. Transparent sienna is my go-to fur colour. For reds, I love geranium and alizarin crimson. And I have a beautiful orange. Actually, you know what? Now you've inspired me. I'm going to get my colours. Actually, it's probably too late now because I've already got them on there. But I'm going to actually use my Schminky orange on this bird. So they'll last me a long time. Oh my God, they last forever. They last forever. And they're easy to mix. They travel beautifully on the paper. Like, yeah, they're just wonderful. They are just wonderful. And they are my go-to for everything. Like, they're my daily paint. I use my Schminkies. Schminky and Sennelier are my dailies. But the Schminkies are stronger. They're a much stronger, like I don't even know. Yeah, see already, they're a stronger yellow. They're just different. Like I was using my cores for fun because I hadn't used them for a long time. And the cores are more opaque. Schminkies are quite, what's the word? Transparent. Hello, Shane. How are you, doll? How are you? I'm just thinking I've got to try. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow, actually, around his tum, going down. Because he's got a little fluffy bits going around the edge. So how are you, Shane? What's been happening? Okay, let's have a quick look. I've got to add a bit more yellow down here. I've got to add to his little claw. His little claw's yellow too. And that's dried enough down there that I can just pop that in. Like that. I'll just fill that in. And he is just about done. I want them to be translucent as possible. Yeah, well, okay, well, core's great, but they're more opaque. Schminky is quite translucent. It is beautiful. Actually, I'll do, while I've got you, I'll do another drawing. I'm going to do, so okay, so I've done this in core. I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to do it in Schminky. I'm just going to use pure Schminkies. So I'm going to start this picture again. So that's core watercolours. I used a tiny little bit of Schminky, but I'm not going to worry about that. And just at the very end I use the Schminky just to show you the yellow. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another budgie, and I'm going to do it all in Schminky. So I'm going to take that off there and pop that back on there like that, because that way I can show you a direct comparison. So I'll just draw a quick outline of this little bird. Where's my pencil? Where's my pencil? What I put? Oh, there it is. Got it. Okay, so again, start with a rounded head like that, and his head is this, the length of his body is 2 times his head. So 1, 2, and I mark there. So that's where I know the end of his body is. Get a little shape coming down and around. I can adjust and readjust as I need to. Come back around here like that. Come back around. Okay, now his tail is the same length as his body. So I measure his body with my fingers, and then I mark there so I know where his tail ends, and I draw the basic shape of his tail like that. Like that. And how have you been, Shane? What's been happening? It's got to be, Shane's one of my mates from England, and so it's got to be well into like the midnight hours. Well into the midnight hours now there. Shane's a night owl. I am not a night owl. So I'm just drawing the shapes. I did all this and explained that in the first part of the video. But I'm just doing a very fast. And I draw very fast, but I've had lots and lots of years of practice. And I recommend drawing from the wild, like sitting outside and drawing what you see. You learn to measure things, and you learn to... terrible at drawing them. I need to practice. Yeah, it is just practice. It is just practice. It is that simple. And I always start with the head, and I measure everything around that. so that, you know, the body's 3 times or twice the length, tail's 2. So whatever, that's how I get my proportions. And on bigger animals like elephants, horses, things like that, I'm up all night too. Oh my goodness, I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you do it. Um, I'm in bed at 8 o'clock. I turn into a pumpkin. So his beak is halfway down the front of his face. His eye is about a centimetre behind his beak, and at the top of the blue part of his nose. So I always measure things against each other. I'm going to do his little leg about here. Pop the back claw there. I'll give him a branch, and you'll see how much different. Then we'll do a side-by-side comparison of the schminkies to the Snelliers. No, not the schminkies to the cores. I mean, I'm going to add his pupil like that. I'm looking at the reference because it was a very fast sketch, so it's a little bit more loose. Gonna just make his head go up. If the feather's a bit rougher on the top of his head, you know, I need to rough those up a little. Alright, I won't worry about drawing in all the lines. I'm going to clean my palette just quickly. Clean my palette. Get all the core watercolours off there. And go back in to my schminkies, which are my go-to favourites. I've used them forever and ever and ever. I have Australian watercolours too. I don't know that you can get them in the US. They're called Art Spectrum, which are really good too. But they've got all the Australian, like, because we've got very vibrant wildlife. They've got lots of different colours. Okay, grab another bit of my cloth, and then we're going to go straight in with my schminkies. I've got to wet them, because you always pre-wet your watercolours, because otherwise you're going to struggle to get paint on your palette. The only thing about pans, always re-wet them first. Where'd I put my brush? Where did I put my long brush? I'll just grab one out of the tub here. Where's my... I love my silver black velvet brushes. And of course I haven't got that brush set in front of me. But that's okay. Oh yes I do. There it is. There's one. These are my silver black velvet. Size 4 I think I've got. Yep, size 4. It's my favourite. Alright, so now I'm going to go... My Jerry was solid white, but the whole underside of his wings were brilliant turquoise. Yeah, they're just... The colours are beautiful. The colours are beautiful. Oh, this is a long one. I didn't realise I got a long one. Okay, so it's the first time I've used this brush. So I'm just going to take that yellow around his head, and it flows much more easily. And I'm working on dry paper, so you can work on wet paper, but I'm working on dry. I don't like that brush. Putting that brush away, grabbing another one. And you get your favourite brushes. I've definitely got my favourite brushes. I don't know what I have done with my stand that had my schminky, what are they? My other brushes. I've gone completely blank on what they're called now. My black velvets. I had them here. I'm going to have to use it, I think. Actually, I'll use this one. It's a smaller, it's not as long. Okay. So I'm going to come around here. And I'm going to fill in his head. I can go over, I haven't marked in the little blue spots, so I can go over that and mark those back in. Thanks for doing this comparison. Oh, that's okay. Well, it'll be fun to see. And like, even just doing that then, I love my schminkies. Like, I really missed. They just flow better. They flow better. I find them easier because I'm so used to them too. I'm just going to add these around. I'm going to start with the yellows around the edges of the feathers. Haven't bothered drawing them in this time. I'm just freehanding the feathers, and I'm adding the yellow first. That's the beauty of doing things live. You can ask a question and I can show you. I can actually jump in and say, okay, well, we'll do that. That's why I love lives, because you can really learn a lot more, and you can ask physical questions and then work from there. So you can see around the very edges of all these, I'm just adding that yellow. So this is cadmium yellow that I'm using. So it's quite a strong yellow, and I'll be able to mix my green exactly on this with this palette too. I've got the shape of his head a little bit wrong, I think. I'm just having a quick look. I've got the shape of his head a little bit wrong. I can change it. I'm going to add the yellows onto these side of his feathers. Oops, pick that little bit up there. Take these lines down there. And then there's bottoms there. And I can only see the back, you can see the yellow on the backs of these ones. So I'll just take those down like that. Like that. It looks a little bit greeny on the screen, but it is quite yellow. It's just because I've had trouble with the lighting. Right. Now, that's all still wet, but I'll pick out, see I've got some blobby bits. I'm going to get my brush and reabsorb all that paint back up. I'm going to get my green. Now, what green am I going to use? Because I've gathered, over the years, I've gathered lots and lots of colours for this. So I'm going to go, it's almost a limey green. So I'm going to try cobalt turquoise. Cobalt turquoise. You can't see that palette very well. They fluff up themselves sometimes too when being cocky. Really cute. Yes. Oh my gosh, they are. Okay. So I've mixed up as close to a lime green as I'm going to be able to mix. And I'm just going to work around. I'm not going to touch those yellows that I've got there. I'm just going to carefully drop in, follow around, because I'll be going over all of this with a darker tone anyway. Because you can see he's got that browny grey over the tops of his feathers, and I haven't worried about drawing the feathers in this time. I'm just going to block it all in. Come around here. And I adore just drawing too. And I recommend practicing your drawing. Drawing's fun. If I had a choice, if I had to give up something, if I had only could have one art supply, I would have a dip pen, or one set of supplies. I'd have dip pen and ink. They are very translucent. They are very translucent. Shane went to sleep, possibly, highly likely. he's he's possibly got me on in the background as he's dozing. So I met Shane on Twitch because I stream on Twitch as well. So he's one of my buddies from over there. We actually met because I play games as well. So we met through playing games, I think. Oh no, we might have met through art. Okay. So come down onto his tail. Yeah, they are much more translucent and much more flowy on the paper. So I'm going to add this yellow, which I've still got on my palette up here, onto the top of this feather. Down onto this one. And I'll let that dry a little bit. Okay. Now, I know why his head looks wrong. I've got to add, his head's dry enough that I can go back in now, and I'm going to go in with cobalt blue. Cobalt blue. Just onto his little cheeky bits. Just down here, he's got a little patch of feathers there. He's got a little circle feather there. He's got another little one here. Doesn't have to be exact. Just a suggestion, just to give you the idea. Went to get a drink. You're right, Dale. You're right. I was just saying, it must be late there. It's got to be very late where you are. And I know why he looks weird too. I haven't done his eye, so I'm going to go in again with cobalt blue into his eye. Got to leave a little bit of white. I've sort of got, I missed that. I've got a little bit of too much paint on there. That's okay. So already you can see, whoops, carefully, how much heavier the core paints look. They look much deeper, much stronger. Okay, so I'm going to go onto his beak with yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is another must-have colour. Yellow ochre I use a lot. Probably every painting, even if it's nature, if it's a landscape, any of that, I always use yellow ochre. It's two. Oh my goodness. I don't know how you do it, mate. I don't know how you do it. So I'm now going to go in with this beautiful cobalt turquoise, pure. And I'm going to take it down his tail. I'm just going to try and do it in as fewer strokes as possible. And I use hot press paper, so it's very smooth paper. So every paper acts differently. Every paper acts differently. And I love hot press because it's smooth. And because I use it for drawing as well. So that's got that. Oh, I've probably taken it down a little bit far. Doesn't matter. I can actually clean my brush and just try and lift that up a bit. Clean my brush and just scrub. Mind you, this blue is very staining. Whoops. I'm just going to touch it with my cloth carefully. Lift that bit off there. That's better. So I just added a bit of water. I haven't lifted it off completely, but it's taken it a little bit. I don't have a job and I'm 68, sleep whenever. Fair enough. Fair enough. I do miss being able to do that. I do miss being able to do that. Back when I wasn't working or when I was just streaming. I did that for all of COVID. I just streamed day in, day out pretty much because I didn't work. And yeah, I used to get up in the middle of the night and play with my English friends on their games and stuff because it didn't matter. I didn't have to be up the next day. My kids are grown up. Most want cold press. I have both and I like hot press a lot. Yeah, I love hot press because I love drawing and I can use it for my drawing. So I'm now adding that. I've got that cobalt turquoise. I've added a bit of yellow to it. And I'm just starting to take that into these, starting to get some shape into these other feathers now. Starting to fill in, going over the top, light to dark, pale colours to strong colours. And I'm just slowly trying to add in. We've got a very windy day here too, I've got to say. It is blowing a gale outside. That's all blended a little bit, so it doesn't matter. Because I'll go over this with a darker blue again. Take that green down the bottom there. It is really a lovely turquoise, that. Come down here, add this turquoise around here. And it's just an effect. It doesn't have to be a photograph. I have lots of fun just sort of ad-libbing. Making it up as I go. Alright. Yeah, I don't like the feeling of the grainy paper. One of the girls that I learnt off used grainy paper a lot. That she used the cold pressed and the really heavy, like the super strong one, the really big grain. But it drives me crazy because I'm a drawer first. I draw first, so and you find lots of watercolorists go in. They don't do a lot of drawing. It's very loose. Um, I'm going to go into my orange now. I'm going to add a little bit of orange. Wow, that's way too much. I'm going to add a little bit of orange to my yellow just to strengthen that up a little bit. And I'm going to add that into around his little eye. Start to get a little bit of three-dimensionalness. Remember watching you just before I went to sleep, and then you were still streaming when I woke up? Yes! Oh my god, I did that so much. I used to love doing that. I used to love that. That was so much fun. I used to do 12-hour streams. Yeah, I used to do 12-hour streams quite often. I'd start painting and drawing, and I just wouldn't stop. Or playing games. So I'm just going to strengthen. That was the life. I do miss it. I do miss that, I have to say. I love my job. My job is probably the best job I could ever have with the best people that I've ever met. But I do miss the freedom. Alright. So come down the front here. And then take that orange onto his tail a little bit as well. Alright. Where are we? Now, I've got to start to add the darks. So, but I'm going to use indigo this time. I'm going to use indigo because I love indigo. Indigo is my favourite blue ever. And the Schminky Indigo is probably my favourite indigo of all. So Schminky Indigo's just got this glorious blue. Like, oh, I just love it. Everything about it. If you got it, yeah, Indigo's probably my favourite blue. Come down and around. Like that. I've got to be a bit... I've got them going the wrong way. I've got to change the directions of those feathers. So I can go back in with my brush and just wet that again, just to lighten that up a little bit. Watching you play Red Dead was always fun. I think you might be the one who showed the difference of people and animal eyes. That was a problem I had. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I've been going to play that again, Shane. I was chatting to a mate. I can't remember who I was chatting to the other day. And I've got to start gaming again. I miss it. But a problem with playing games, is I start and I do play them for 12 hours straight. It's real. I don't have a stop button. And Red Dead Redemption's a great game. I only got into games in my middle age, Susan. It was funny. I got into games in my middle age, literally, because I started Twitch streaming on for art. But yeah, and then games sort of took over, and my daughter helped me a lot. So this is indigo, and you can see how much you can dilute it, and it's just this most beautiful soft colour. I'm looking at this reference picture, and I'm trying to just suggest where the blues are. Come around here too. Just putting the shapes, just suggesting the shapes. It doesn't have to be exactly right. This, like I said, this is just a comparison to show you the different paints. And it is much softer. You know what I could do? I could also do is a colour. Hello?
Hey, it's all done.
Oh, good. I'll be out in a second.
Yep, all good.
Okay. Okay. That was my youngest daughter. I play games, but none of them Minecraft types. You know what? I'm a shooter looter game player. So I love Red Dead Redemption. Which is a shooting game. It's a cowboy game. I love medieval games. I love a medieval game. I play I love Resident Evils. I played all the Resident Evils. Oh, I screamed a lot playing those though. That was fun. I'm just going to add a bit of detail around his eye. And I've got to add the blue in on his nose. These ones look more vibrant. They're softer. They're softer. They're more delicate. I've got more of a range of colours, which I love. They're more translucent, so you do get, actually that's a good description, because you get the glow off the paper. They've got a real glow about them. They do have a real glow about them. And watch how this, I'm going to wet this stick. You watch the difference in how this flows. So I put my paper on there, my water on my paper. I grab my yellow ochre. So this is exactly the same technique as I used before. Drop it in and see how it flows straight across. Where before I had to fiddle with it. With the cores, I had to fiddle to try and get it to do that. But once you've wet the paper, it just takes it. The paint just, it's magical. It is magical. That's one of the reasons I love Sennelier. Sorry, Schminky. I love Schminky and Sennelier. But Schminky, I'm so used to saying Sennelier. It's one of the reasons I love Schminky. I'm just going to add some more this gold colour, or orange, just around. And it's got to be like a bit stronger just there. That keeps it interesting. Having a look. He's got that green on his chest. So I'm going to go back to... I could actually do like a little colour charty thing of... I'm going to strengthen the green a little bit. Just around this front part. Like I can put them on the paper and show you how they flow and stuff. Just going to strengthen that green. I've got to add some blue, some more blue. I haven't gone anywhere near as dark on this painting compared to the reference. Okay. And it's not in as much detail. Alright, strengthen him. I'm going to go back into my indigo. I've got to go back into my indigo blue. Get a lot more of that on my brush. I've got to, that's one pan I've got to top up. I do use a lot of indigo. Got to top up my indigo. Alright. And plop that on, and I'm just going to literally put blobs of it. I'm not going to worry about... I'm just going to try and keep it in the direction of the feathers. Like that. Come down and around here as well. Like that. Darken up these edges. And I can add a bit of brown to that, and that'll make an almost black. An almost black. I do that to make... I make my own greys and browns. And I use indigo, cobalt blue, or... you can layer and layer. Oh, yeah. You can do, as long as you remember your lights to darks, you can keep layering forever. And I start very pale and then build up. Yeah, as long as you do that, you're fine. The world's your oyster. Like, proportionally, he's not 100% right, but I just wanted to show you an example. I'm going to take that line down there and darken off the very tip of his tail. Just add a few little strokes on. I'm now going to add... I've got to go back to his eye. His eye's not dark enough. And I'm just going to darken his pupil. And try not to get too much on my brush. Like that. There we go. That darkened his eye up nicely. And I'm having a quick look at the picture. I've got to add a shadow under his little tummy. Now I'm going to re-wet. That's dry, pretty dry underneath him. So I'm going to add a shadow colour under there. I'm just going to use my indigo again. Indigo is a great shadow colour. So I'm just going to drop that in directly underneath him. You've always got a shadow under there. Like that. This creates that little shadow tone. I'll let that dry a fraction. And I'm going to go back to my yellow ochre and just darken up this underneath part of his beak. So it's almost pure yellow ochre. Almost pure yellow ochre. It's quite dark, just to get that little shadow. He looks fine proportionally. Younger ones are squatty and fatter too. Yes, they are. They're gorgeous birds. Now I'm going to go into my cobalt blue, and I'm going to add that cobalt blue under his beak, and just touch his nose there where his little nostril is. There we go. I've got a little blob right there. I've got to pick that up. A little blob of water on there. Now, and I'm going to add yellow ochre to his claw as well. So almost pure yellow ochre to his little claw under there. Like that. There we go. So now, side by side. You can see the schminkies are much softer looking. They're much less sort of, yeah, they're much more translucent, much softer. They flow better. Like, I'll show you the difference. I'll do it on this piece of paper. And I won't do it on this piece of paper. I'll grab a fresh piece of paper. I'll just get this book over here. And I'll just do this. I'll just take that off there. And I'll show you the difference in the flow. And I'll pop me budgie there for a second. I'll just show you the difference in the way it flows. So I've got both palettes here still. Pick that up there, pop that over there. So actually I'll pull out this piece of paper, and yeah. Okay, so I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to get both my core and my schminky side by side, and I'm going to I'll use a blue to show you, and I'm going to clean this brush, and I'm going to put a big blob of water up here, like that. Big blob of water, so it's nice and wet. I'm going to grab my blue, and I'm going to drop it in, and watch how that flows. It's really easy to get schminky to travel like that. It just flows around that water, magical. Now, clean my brush again. Make another blob just below it. This is how you make clouds too. Same way. Okay, so you wet your paper thoroughly, and then you go into my blue. Where's my blue? Where's my blue? I've got my palette upside down. There's my blue. Oh, that's purple, but it'll do the same thing. I'll show you. Okay, so drop that in. See, it reacts similar. See how it doesn't flow down as much. It sort of explodes out. The core explodes out like a firework, where the schminky flows down more. So now I'm going to clean my brush again, and I'm going to just, I should have less water on it. Now and while that's wet, you can drag it around. While it's still wet, you can move it around within its own puddle, like that. And you can do the same with the cores. It's looking like an Easter egg painting, isn't it? You can drag it around, same, like that. But it does travel differently. Schminky does move better. I'm going to do the schminkies again. I'll go the orange with the schminky. And just pop it there. And it just goes straight everywhere. Like it really does. And if you've got it really diluted, like look at that. That was so simple. That's instant tree branch. Like that's so simple to do. But yeah, it's fun. Like if you get them, just Practice, try everything, do this. Like I'll do a little skyscape. I'll do a little sky scene for you, Dale. I'll use the schminkies. So, oh, I've run out of paper. Oh, poop. Okay, I'll grab another book, shall I? I've got an acrylic book here. I'll just use that. Okay, grabbing another bit of paper. So, stick that there, like that. That's acrylic paper. And I'm going to make a sky. And I'm going to get a really big brush because I need a really big brush for this. To wet lots of space on this big piece of paper. Excuse my dirty water. So, get my big brush and I blob in. Wet the sky. Just wet it. Super duper wet. Grab my blue. I'm going to go cobalt blue. And I'm just going to... This is why I love schmink. Look at this. Look at it. So big clouds at the back. Littler ones to the front. Like that. And there's two ways of doing this. This is one way. And you can see it just flows around. It'll all bead at the bottom. And you can get your rain effects. Like what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to start to add... I'll add a darker blue. Whatever blues I've got on my palette in front of me. Take that there like that. Pop that in. See it, let it run down. I can then get my bit of cloth. I'll bring it down a bit lower actually so you can see it better. Get my bit of cloth and lift out some clouds. So you can do skies like that. And just clouds that they get littler into down lower, further away. So that is literally just a smudgy sky for fun with schminkies. I'll try and do the same thing with my cores now. I'll do below that. I'll do exactly the same thing. I'll wet a big block of it, not quite touching. I really wet it, and this is on acrylic paper. It's just cheap paper. And then I'm going to go, what blue am I going to use? Doesn't really even matter what blue I use. I'm going to go drop it in. See how different that is? It just doesn't travel the same. I love it for different reasons. Every paint has a different use. Every paint has a different use, and I love core for portraits. Love core for portraits. And skin tones, because you can get beautiful, beautiful skin tones with core. All right, and then I'm going to go a stormy colour. Where's a stormy colour? I'll add a bit of grey. Why not? Let's just add a bit of grey. See what happens. It's a blue grey. Come down and around. And while that's still damp, I'm going to go back in like I just did and blob bits of sky. So they're completely different blues. You can get similar effects. You can definitely get similar effects. But I think it's a more natural effect with the schminkies. I think schminky has much more natural, a much more nature look. you can use it for nature much more easily. So that's two skies, two completely different brands, and I have to say I like this one. I do like this one. So I am going to say thank you so much for watching. That was lots and lots of fun. I'll be back tomorrow morning a bit earlier because today I actually got up a bit later because it was my day off. So it was lovely. Tomorrow morning I'll be on streaming a bit earlier. I'm going to go and hang out with the family now, so because it's lunchtime here, and I'm probably going to go and have a barbecue lunch outside because it's a windy day, but it's a nice day. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for hanging out, Susan and Shane. It was awesome to see you guys. I'll be back. Yeah, I'm going to try and do this most days. The top is better. The top is very definitely better. Yeah, that's why I love schminkies. And Senneliers are even softer again. I should show you Senneliers while we're here. Schminkies, I'd recommend Schminkies. I have Senneliers as well. I'll show you my Senneliers. I might as well while we're here. I'll give you another comparison. And they're a beautiful soft. Like you can even just see by looking at the palette, they're a much softer colour. I'll just do a quick down the bottom here, just to show you the difference. I've got to clean my brush. I will, Shane, Scott's got the day off too, so we're going to sit out the back and have a barbie. Have a barbie. Whoops, that stayed very wet. Let's mop that up a little bit. So just down here, I'll show you the Senneliers, because Senneliers are beautiful and soft too. Have I got the right one? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to go in, and these as close to. See how they flow even more easily. They flow even more easily. Okay, any blues. I'm just grabbing any blues off the palette, and I haven't wet these, so they're still a bit. They're super translucent. Like you can do 10 layers of these. Yeah, and that's it. And it's affordability. Any of these, any of the Snellia, Schminky. What else have I got? Kuretake Gumbai. I think that's how you say it. Kuretakes. They're not colour fast, but they're beautiful. Yeah, but if you're gonna get a really expensive set that you'll have forever and you'll always love, Schminky. Highly recommend. They're my go-to. So, and you get one pan at a time. Pans are probably, they last longer. I find they last longer than tubes, because tubes are, pans are dry. They dry back up. They keep easily. You don't lose a tube if you accidentally have a crack in your lid or anything. It didn't project outwards. No, actually, I'll try again. I'll turn it over. I'll try again. Hang on, I'll show you. I'll do it properly. I might have had my brush a little bit too wet. So hang on. I'll go here. I'll re-wet. I'll do that again. I'll wet up here so you can see it properly. Like that. And I'll just drop a colour in the middle. I'll dry my brush and I'll go a blue, and I'll literally just drop it in the middle. Like that. Yeah, no, it is different. It travels different. It travels slower. Yeah, you do have to. You're right. You're right. It does. But it's spread, like you can spread it with your brush. But yeah, it doesn't. It sort of just goes. The Schminky travels way better. But this isn't a good paper. I should do it on a good paper. Hang on. I'll try it on a good paper. Because paper makes a difference. I'll do it on the one of my backs of my budgies. No, I'll do it on the front of my budgie. I'll do it down here. Because the paper makes a difference. So I'll put it on the bottom left-hand corner here. Excuse that it's already got blue tint in it. And then, because paper makes a difference. Also, getting your best quality paper helps. You can see how that's pulled down the bottom. So it's flowing better on this paper. So, and this is, yeah, the quality of paper makes a massive difference. And this is, what is this? This is the last sheet of my, I've gone completely blank on what it's called. It's not my Fabriano, it's the other one. Arches. That's Arches. This one. So yeah, it acts differently on the different quality paper. So I also recommend get the best paper you can afford. I use everything because it doesn't matter, because it's what I get, and I get it. Like at the moment I've got Fabriano. I just bought 2 books of Fabriano because I heard it was recommended. Haven't tried it yet properly, but I will. Or actually, yeah, because that was I think it was Arches that I used. But the Fabrianos, it feels the same. So yeah, so there's my 2 budgies. A before and after. Schminky core. I think I'll stick to the cores for humans, and I'll stick to the Schminkies for animals. Paper I found is most important. Yes, I try and buy the best paper I can use for like when I'm doing, because I've got a few commissions that I do. So when I'm doing commissions, I use the best I can afford. And then you've got the longevity too. You've got it'll be there in 100 years. So yeah, but anyway, on that note, I get distracted very easily. I'm going to head out. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. You girls and guys are a world of awesomeness, and it was fun having a chat, and I will see you tomorrow morning. So I'll be back for another video, and I have no idea what I'm going to do, but we'll figure that out. So I'll see you then. If you've got any suggestions on what you want to see, pop it in the comments, and when I get a chance, I'll have a look, and you can inspire me on what I want to do tomorrow. You can tell me what you'd like to see, and I will do that. So enjoy that, Barbie. I wish you were there too, Dale. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be lamb chops. So and it's a very windy day, but we've got a pit fire out the back, like a what do you call it, a pot belly stove, and we light our pot belly stove and we cook on the stove, and it's just heaven. We just sit around the stove and look at the mountains because I'm on a farm, and yeah, it's lovely. And it's still winter here, so it's still a bit of nip on the air, a bit of chill. But anyway, I will see you all for the next stream. Have an awesome afternoon, evening, day, night, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again, guys.